Very good morning and welcome to the Breakfast News here on Rajya TV. I'm Tracy Shilshi and I'm getting you all the day's top stories. But first, the headlines. Prime Minister Modi departs from Paris at the climate summit, tells world leaders developing countries need to be allowed to grow while combating global warming. India also unveils global solar alliance of 120 countries. A casual meeting between Prime Minister Modi and the Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif on the sidelines of the Paris summit. Both leaders exchange views. BJP calls it a positive step, but the Congress says it's a mere photo op. Economy grows by 7.4% in the second quarter. Manufacturing helps India outpace China to become the fastest growing major economy. Outlook magazine apologizes for the statement attributed to Home Minister Rajnath Singh. Lok Sabha was adjourned on Monday after BJP demanded apology from CPM MP Mohammad Salim for quoting that controversial remark in the magazine. And Russia accuses Turkey of shooting down its warplane to protect supplies for oil for the Islamic State. Turkey refuses to apologize. Our top story, Prime Minister Narendra Modi departed from Paris for New Delhi last night after attending the inaugural session of the UN Climate Change Conference. Modi held multiple meetings with a number of world leaders, including his Japanese counterpart Shinzo Abe and US President Barack Obama. In his meeting with French President François Hollande, Modi expressed solidarity with the French people and India's deepest admiration for France for being an outstanding host to the world in a difficult moment. Later, he also launched the India-mooted International Solar Alliance. And like we pointed out, it has been a packed schedule for the Prime Minister. Of course, yesterday was when a series of meetings took place. Now he's, of course, departed for Delhi. But not, of course, after securing some interesting developments there that we'll be showing you in just a short while.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi told leaders at the climate summit in Paris that developing countries need to be allowed to grow while also combating global warming.
We have to ensure, in the spirit of climate justice, that the life of a few does not crowd out the opportunity for the many still on the initial stage of the development ladder. The advanced countries must leave enough room for developing countries to grow.
Modi also called for investment in innovation to bring clean energy, a view that was echoed by US President Barack Obama. Narendra Modi
is taking place, but using a whole new set of technologies and arrangements, so that we don't have a conflict between development and solving this climate crisis.
Earlier, Prime Minister Modi, along with French President François Hollande, launched the International Solar Alliance and pledged India's assistance of $30 million for the initiative that brings together developed and developing nations. Modi also announced that India will host the initiative in the premises of the National Institute of Solar Energy in Gurgaon in Haryana. Hollande applauded Modi's initiative as a paradigm shift.
L'idée, c'est de donner à des pays qui n'ont pour seule ressource le plus souvent que d'avoir du soleil les moyens d'assurer leur développement.
It will create unlimited economic opportunities. That will be the foundation of the new economy of this century. This is an alliance that brings together developed and developing countries.
Modi assured world leaders that India will take significant steps to reduce emissions by 35% of 2005 levels by 2030, and only 40% of the country's installed capacity will be fossil fuels. India also pledged to expand renewable energy, enlarge forest cover, reduce dependence on fossil fuels, and transform public transportation in cities. Bureau Report, Rajya TV.
And Prime Minister Narendra Modi's casual meeting, in fact, with his Pakistani counterpart Nawaz Sharif in Paris, evoked mixed reactions back home. Well, while BJP leaders hailed it as a positive step, opposition Congress dismissed it as a mere photo op. Defence experts also were of the view that not much should be interpreted of the casual meet.
हमारी सरकार है केंद्र की, वो एक बहुत जिम्मेदार संवेदनशील सरकार है और हर क्षेत्र में काम कर रही है.
That's a very positive step, very positive step. In the larger interest of both the nations. Of course, that's a good step, positive step. And I'm sure, I hope, wish and pray that it gets the fruitful results, peace and prosperity across the border.
Is there any indication of intent of seriously moving forward? Otherwise, meeting is a meaningless thing.
Well, I'm glad that the Indian Prime Minister and the Pakistani Prime Minister have met in Paris, and from the photographs that were circulated, it appears that they had cordial meetings. I hope this thaws the relationship, and then we carry forward, taking up all these important issues of cross-border terrorism with Pakistan through such talks.
The fact that they have met is cause for satisfaction, but I would not overinterpret this at this stage, because the primary focus for both the Prime Ministers, Mr. Modi and Mr. Nawaz Sharif, is really the climate change summit in Paris. But maybe one can look at it this way, saying that in the event they had not met, exchanged pleasantries and perhaps shaken hands as they have, then it would have sent out a different political signal. I think in that sense, this is satisfactory.
But back to the climate change summit, and US President Barack Obama joined world leaders calling for a breakthrough in talks, saying it could be a turning point in global efforts to limit future temperature rises. Over the next few weeks, in fact, nearly 150 leaders from 195 countries will hold talks on the climate challenges that the world faces.
Paris must mark a decisive turning point. We need the world to know that we are headed to a low emissions, climate resilient future, and there is no going back. This is a very good start, but we need to go much faster, much further, if we are to limit the global temperature rise below 2 degrees Celsius.
150 heads of states, including the biggest carbon emitters, US and China, will hold talks over the next 2 weeks to steer the world away from its dependence on fossil fuels. US President Barack Obama says the conference could be climate turning point to reduce global emissions. Meanwhile, Chinese President Xi Jinping said it should be a new starting point. He reiterated Chinese mission to start cutting its emissions from a peak in 2030.
Progress should give us hope during these 2 weeks. Hope that is rooted
in their investment in clean energy research over 5 years. Later in the day, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and French President François Hollande will launch an international alliance of over 100 solar-rich countries. The mission is to eventually bring clean and affordable solar energy within everybody's reach. A few European nations working with the World Bank have also announced a $500 million fund to help developing countries cut carbon emissions. Amidst major world powers, the poorest countries expressed their fear of being left behind in the push for a new treaty.
La France accueille 150 chefs d'État et de gouvernement, des milliers de délégués venus de tous les continents. Jamais une conférence n'avait accueilli autant d'autorités.
On the eve of the International Climate Summit, the Eiffel Tower lit up with messages of hope. Compared to previous UN climate summits, this time the most difficult part includes working out how to share the burden of taking action equally between rich and poor nations, and how to finance the cost of adapting to global warming. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, aided by a pickup in the manufacturing sector, India's economic growth rate has accelerated to 7.4% in the July-September quarter. In fact, the sign of recovery in the GDP comes after a serious rate cut by the RBI in recent months. The improvement has bolstered the case for the central bank to hold on to its rate in the bi-monthly monetary policy review today. The new GDP rate also helps India overtake China as the world's fastest growing major economy. Amid global headwinds, Chinese economy expanded at a slower rate of 6.9%. Buoyed by the second quarter numbers, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley said that the GDP in the current fiscal will be better than the 7.3% growth rate recorded last year and improve further in the subsequent years. The government had projected a growth rate of 8.1 to 8.5% for the current fiscal. In other news, leading magazine Outlook has apologized to Home Minister Rajnath Singh for a comment that was attributed to him in one of its issues. The apology came in the form of a tweet where the magazine said that it does not intend to denigrate either the Home Minister or Parliament. The magazine has said that it deeply regrets the embarrassment caused to the Home Minister. CPM MP Mohammad Salim had quoted from the magazine on Monday to target the Home Minister during a debate on intolerance in Lok Sabha. And that debate on Monday saw heated exchanges between the government and the opposition. When Mohammad Salim did not relent, the Speaker expunged his statement, and the debate will continue today.
The debate on growing intolerance in the country was started by CPIM MP Mohammad Salim. Accusing the government and the BJP of promoting intolerance, he said that the party's MPs and even the Prime Minister were making statements that hurt the social fabric of the country.
पहले तो कहा गया छुटपुट, फिर कहा गया फ्रिंज एलिमेंट्स. कौन फ्रिंज है? सदन के सदस्य, मंत्रिमंडली के सदस्य. बात ये थी कि जो फ्रिंज में हमारे हैं, प्रांत में हैं, गरीब, दलित, आदिवासी, पिछड़ा, अपाहिज, उनको हम किस तरह से मेन स्ट्रीम में ले आए. आजादी के बाद तो यही सबसे बड़ा सोच. हमारा संविधान तो ये निर्देश दिया हमें. हम उसे मुख्य धारा में ले आएंगे. ये कहां से फ्रिंज एलिमेंट्स नया तैयार हो गया, और वो फ्रिंज एलिमेंट्स नहीं है.
Mohammad Salim referred to an article published in an English magazine to accuse Home Minister Rajnath Singh of making certain statements. The government objected to this.
और मैं समझता हूं इस प्रकार का स्टेटमेंट यदि कोई गृह मंत्री देता है तो उस गृह मंत्री को अपने पद पर बने रहने का कोई नैतिक अधिकार नहीं. और अध्यक्ष महोदया, मैं आपका संरक्षण चाहता हूं. मैं इससे बेहद आहत हुआ. सारे सम्मानित सदस्य सदन के जानते हैं, और इस सदन के ही सदस्य नहीं जानते हैं, हिंदुस्तान का माइनॉरिटीज कम्युनिटी का भी इंसान इस बात को जानता है कि राजनाथ सिंह इस प्रकार के स्टेटमेंट कभी नहीं दे सकते.
When the CPM MP refused to withdraw his remarks, the Speaker expunged it.
No allegation by a member may be made unless an adequate notice has been given. After due consideration, I find that the statements by Sri Mohammad Salim have been made without giving advance notice. Therefore, the remarks of Sri Mohammad Salim shall not form part of the proceedings.
Speaking for the Congress, K.C. Venugopal accused the Prime Minister of keeping mum on the issue of intolerance. He said that top leaders not acknowledging such incidents gives strength to troublemakers.
No mature statements or remarks came from government.
No remarks.
We expected a remark from the Honorable Prime Minister. Our Prime Minister addressed 31 rallies during the period of Bihar election. Not even in a single rally he did not mention these tragic incidents.
BJP MP Meenakshi Lekhi said law and order was a state subject. She also accused the Congress of using the issue for political gains.
इस तरीके की हरकतें लगातार देश के ताने बाने के साथ खिलवाड़ है, और यही बात मैं अपने भारत के देशवासियों को बताना चाहती हूं कि आप इस खिलवाड़ का शिकार ना हो. अमृतसर के अंदर अभी हाल ही में सो कॉल्ड सरबत खालसा का जलसा हुआ, और उस जलसे के अंदर स्टेज के ऊपर से खालिस्तान की मांग की गई. उस समय स्टेज पर कौन-कौन लोग मौजूद थे, ये मैं जानना चाहती हूं कांग्रेस के लोगों से. मैं जानना चाहती हूं.
The Home Minister will reply to the debate on behalf of the government. Shyam Sundar's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Without a quick break here, we'll be back with more news. Stay with us.
tradition dating back centuries. A cultural heritage that inspires and warms at once. Magic that awes. Rajya Sabha television brings you events that embrace the wonders of India's classical arts. Conversations with the biggest names in the culture and music. Rajya Sabha television, democracy at work.
Welcome back. Now, in a move that could put the centre and the AAP government at loggerheads once again, the Delhi government introduced the Delhi Jan Lokpal in the assembly yesterday. The bill provides for an ombudsman with powers to act against any government functionary, including those of the centre, in the national capital through its own investigation wing. It can also investigate the allegations of corruption against officials from Delhi Police, municipal corporations, Delhi Development Authority or the DDA. Deputy Chief Minister of Delhi, Manish Sisodia, introduced the bill in the Assembly yesterday with no member of the opposition present in the House. Sisodia termed it as the most effective and independent in India's history. But the appointment and removal process has come under heavy criticism from former AAP leaders Prashant Bhushan, Yogendra Yadav and the opposition BJP. They're accusing Kejriwal of diluting the provisions that were envisaged originally. The AAP government enjoying the majority in the Assembly could directly influence the appointment, transfer and impeachment process. And now let's take you through the important events lined up for today in our segment, The Day Ahead. The Reserve Bank of India will announce its fifth bi-monthly monetary policy review 2015-16 today. It is widely expected that RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan will keep the policy rate unchanged, this time for banks to fully translate the benefit of repo rate cut to the customers. In the previous policy announced on the 29th of September, the RBI had cut repo rate by a larger than expected rate of 0.5% to 6.75%. Following the cut, many banks, including industry peers such as SBI, ICICI Bank and Axis Bank, had reduced their lending rates. The Finance Ministry will hold a review meeting with banks and RBI representatives today to assess the gold monetization scheme. The meet comes in the backdrop of a slow response to the scheme, which was launched earlier this month. The objective of the meet is to make the scheme more attractive. Economic Affairs Secretary Shashikanta Das will chair the meeting. Newly elected MLAs in Bihar Assembly will take the oath today due to the passing away of RLSP MLA Basant Kumar. The oath ceremony could not take place on Monday, the opening day of the winter session in Assembly. In a bid to speed up the oath process, the House will meet an hour before the scheduled time of 11 a.m. Pro Tem Speaker Sadanand Singh will administer the oath to all newly elected members of the House. Today is the 50th raising day of the Border Security Force, and Home Minister Rajnath Singh will take the salute of the parade at the Golden Jubilee celebrations in Delhi. Raised on the 1st of December 1965, the BSF is the largest force guarding our borders. To highlight the achievements of the force, a grand event is also scheduled to be held at the BSF Frontier Headquarters in Jalandhar. International news, and as tensions rise with Ankara, Russian President Vladimir Putin on Monday accused Turkey of shooting down a Russian warplane to protect supplies of oil from the Islamic State group. Here's a report.
Speaking at international talks on climate change in Paris, Russian President Vladimir Putin called the downing of the Russian plane a huge mistake and refused to meet the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan on Monday. Russia also announced a raft of economic sanctions against Turkey. Relations between Russia and Turkey have nosedived since Turkey shot down the Russian bomber near the Syrian-Turkish border on the 24th of November.
И у нас есть все основания полагать, что и решение по поводу того, чтобы сбить наш самолет, было продиктовано желанием обеспечить безопасность этих путей доставки нефти на территорию Турции, как раз к портам, откуда они отгружаются в танкеры.
Putin's strongly worded statement came hours after Turkish Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu dismissed on Monday any suggestion that Ankara should apologize for shooting down a Russian warplane in its airspace last week and called claims that Turkey buys oil from Islamic State slander.
Turkish airspace is Turkish sovereignty, and our action was a defensive action. And we wish it had not happened. But at the same time, our rules of engagement was very clear, was declared in advance, and was informed to Russian side.
Both Davutoglu and NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg also warned that such incidents continue to be a risk as long as Russia and the US-led coalition bombing Islamic State in Syria worked separately.
Russian side wants to talk and wants to prevent any future unintentional event like this. We are ready to talk anything.
I welcome Turkey's efforts to establish contacts with Moscow and to its contacts with Russia to de-escalate the situation. I urge Russia to play a constructive role in Syria by targeting ISIL, our common enemy.
Meanwhile, the body of a Russian pilot whose warplane was shot down by Turkey on the Syrian border was being returned home. He died after ethnic Turkmen rebels opened fire as both crew members parachuted to the ground when their plane was hit on Tuesday. Only the navigator survived. Another Russian was killed in a rescue attempt. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, Britain is set to vote on joining US airstrikes against the Islamic State in Syria. Prime Minister and Conservative Party leader David Cameron is confident of securing the approval to launch strikes. Cameron said that he will call a one-day Commons debate and vote on Wednesday over UK airstrikes against the group. The decision comes after opposition Labour Party allowed its members to vote freely on the issue, breaking away from tradition. The opposition is deeply divided over the issue. While many in Labour Party fear more airstrikes will bring more instability to the Middle East, some of the members said that they are necessary to ensure Britain's security.
Well, I believe there's growing support across Parliament for the compelling case there is to answer the call from our allies to act against ISIL in Syria and in Iraq. The headquarters, many ways, of the terrorists actually is in Syria, and it makes no sense to recognise this border in the action we take when ISIL themselves don't recognise this border. So it's in the national interest, it's the right thing to do. We'll be acting with our allies. We will be careful and responsible as we do so.
When we bring this matter to a vote in Parliament, we will now see a majority of parliamentarians supporting the action.
And now let's take a look at other stories from across the world. The International Monetary Fund has announced that China's currency, the yuan, will join the fund's basket of reserve currencies alongside the dollar, euro, pound sterling and yen. The IMF said that the yuan met all existing criteria and should become part of the basket in October 2016. IMF chief Christine Lagarde said that it was an important milestone in the integration of the Chinese economy into the global financial system. Turkish authorities have rounded up some 1,300 migrants allegedly bound for Greece. In early morning raids, police had in fact detained hundreds of migrants near the western town of Avicii, a main crossing point to Greece. Migrants from Syria, Iraq, Pakistan, Afghanistan and Iran were sent to a repatriation center. The move comes hours after Turkey and European leaders struck a deal to stem the flow of migrants to Europe. Rochmark Christian Kabore was elected the president in Burkina Faso, securing 53.5% of the votes. Kabore is the former prime minister and won the Sunday's elections outrightly with no need to hold a second round. It was the first election since last year's popular uprising, which toppled long-standing president Blaise Compaoré. Looking to end the political logjam in Nepal, Madhesi leaders on Monday submitted their 11-point demand to the Prime Minister. It was the first meeting with PM KP Sharma Oli and opposition Nepali Congress, but no breakthrough emerged from the talks. They have agreed to meet again on Wednesday. And now some sports news. And in hockey, an inconsistent India lost 1-3 to the Netherlands, slumped to their second defeat in the tournament and finished at the bottom of Pool B at the Hockey World League final on Monday. The Dutch team started on the front foot and attacked the Indian goal from the word go. A couple of good saves by Srijesh kept the second-ranked side in the world from scoring. But Netherlands took the lead in the 36th minute through a penalty corner conversion by Mink van der Weerden before Mirko Puitzer and Roel Benvediet scored 2 field goals. India's lone goal came from the stick of Chinglen Singh in the 47th minute. The loss meant that India finished at the bottom of Pool B with just 1 point from 3 matches. and will now take on Pool A toppers in the quarterfinals. The Netherlands, meanwhile, have topped Pool B with 7 points out of 2 wins and a draw, and will play the bottom place team of Pool A.
Yeah, a real tough game. We knew it before. India have a big crowd behind them, and they love to play forward and attacking game. So it was a tough match, and eventually we could be happy with the 3-1 result. Yeah, it was an amazing goal by Rule. It was his, I think, his 4th cap yet. So it was really nice to see him score a goal like that, and really proud of him.
And now some more updates in Sports Beat. Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo will go head-to-head once again for the title of the world's best footballer after being shortlisted along with Neymar on Monday for the 2015 FIFA Bulletin d'Or. For the 7th time in 8 years, the dynamic duo of Barcelona's Messi and Real Madrid's Ronaldo are expected to fill the top 2 places on the podium in Zurich in January for the coveted accolade of being the year's leading player. Hamburg's bid to host the 2024 Olympics collapsed after the majority of the city's residents voted against the multi-billion euro project in a referendum, killing off the candidacy and leaving officials in shock. Hamburg's withdrawal reshuffles the cards in the race to land the world's biggest multi-sports event, with Paris, Los Angeles, Budapest and Rome left in contention and an International Olympic Committee decision due in 2017. 3 leading Kenyan athletics officials have been suspended by the Ethics Commission of the athletics governing body, the IAAF, over the potential subversion of the anti-doping control process in the African country. Athletics Kenya President Isaiah Kiplagat, Vice President David Okeo, and the 2015 World Championships team leader Joseph Kinua have been suspended for 180 days. Former New Zealand all-rounder and captain Chris Cairns has been found not guilty of perjury and perverting the course of justice by a British court. The jury reached a verdict on Monday after deliberating for 10 hours and 17 minutes, bringing an end to a trial which lasted more than 8 weeks. Charges were brought against Cairns after he sued Indian Premier League chairman Lalit Modi for libel in 2012 over a 2010 tweet in which the administrator accused him of match-fixing. PSV Eindhoven kept pace with leaders Ajax with straightforward 3-0 win over toothless AZ in the Dutch league. Last season's champions had the game wrapped up by half-time after a 3-goal blitz. Any chance AZ had of getting back into things in the second period disappeared when the centre-back Derek Lucasen was sent off for the needless red card. PSV, who are third, remain 4 points behind Ajax, with Feyenoord sandwiched in between. And that's all we have for you on the Breakfast News. Thanks so much for joining us.